Hi, ladybugs. How are we doing? I'm doing pretty good. Today I'm going to talk about something that's kind of crazy. It's a case that I've been watching, and actually I've seen it over a span of time. This is little Finley that I'm holding. We're going to dress him first. He's the Elliot by Cassie Brace. So anyway, but first, how are you guys doing? Is everybody doing good? I'm doing pretty good. My back's a little sore today, but it's going to be for the next several weeks, so there's nothing I can do about that. Anyway, I don't know if you guys have heard of the Susan Lawrence case, but basically that case is about a woman who lived across the street from a single mother with her 4 kids, and she was constantly calling the cops. Now, in some ways, I understand her frustration, and let me point out, I don't agree at all with what she did, and I don't understand what she did. So, let me just say that before we get too far into this case, and you guys are like, "Oh, you're defending what she did." I am absolutely not defending what she did, but I understand her frustration because we live in a world where kids are incredibly disrespectful. And she said that the kids would make it a point to go over there and knock on her door, or they would throw things at her door, or they would call her names when she was outside. And that I do believe, because these kids were pretty disrespectful just in their everyday lives with most people. And the mother really didn't do anything about it. So while I don't agree with what Susan did, I do understand her frustration. The kids would make it a point to yell outside her window just to kind of irritate her. You know, she basically made it clear to these kids that she was incredibly irritated by them. And then when you do that, when you make that clear to children, especially older children, you know, you're basically painting a target on your back. And so that's what happened, was that she basically, these kids learned really fast that she was irritated by them, and that it really bothered her I'm going to move you guys for a second, to have the kids around. And of course the kids played into that, you know what I mean? They were like, "Oh, good, we can irritate her." And that's what kids do. And it's not just today's kids. I think kids for generations have kind of been like that with people that they know they can get under their skin. They find it amusing. But especially kids today. So basically what happened was, she had kind of been ragging on these kids about their yelling and their being, you know, near her door. But she took it too far, because she would yell at so basically, like, there was her house, and then there was a big open field, and then there was another house, and the field, and these kids and their mom lived across the street from the field. So kind of kitty corner to Susan. And the person who lived on the other side of the field, he actually owned the property that the field was on. So it was basically his field and not hers. And he had basically told the kids that they could play there. And so the kids had a right to play there. So they weren't doing anything wrong there. But come on, we all know kids that are like 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, those ages, which is what the ages the kids were. You know, they probably made it a point to tick her off more than usual, because they knew it got to her. And the mother really didn't discipline the kids. They were kind of roaming free. And anyway, so the kids would play in the field a lot, but they also made it a point to kind of, you know, get in there and tick her off. But they were playing in the field this particular day. And she would constantly call the cops about them playing in the field, which she didn't really have a right to do, because it wasn't her property. It was the property of the person on the other side of the field. But she would call the cops about the stupidest things, about them playing in the street, because she never could catch them, like, knocking on her door, or, you know, throwing things at her door, or, you know, whatever. Anyway, so this one night, the kids were being super loud, which, you know, I mean, I don't think that's wrong, because kids are super loud. That's just the way they are. And if you don't like it, don't move across the street from kids who are rarely supervised, because they're even louder than normal kids, you know? Like, my kids never would have been out in the street screaming, because, you know, I kept a pretty close eye on my kids. But a lot of parents don't. And, you know, there's nothing, like, horrible about that. But anyway, so this particular night, I guess one of the kids went up on her property, like right over the property line or something. And this lady, like, she made it a point that if they stepped, I mean, I agree that the kids were probably annoying and that the kids were making it a point to aggravate her. But at the same time, she was taking it too far. You know what I mean? Like, she was calling if they just stepped a foot over her property line, which was, really dumb. If you don't want kids on your property line, put a fence up or something. You know what I mean? Like, but anyway, she took it too far too. I think both parties were wrong in the beginning, not in the end. In the end, only Susan was wrong. So I guess this kid had an iPad, and I don't know how there's very little detail about how the altercation between the kid and Susan kind of played out. But like basically what happened was somehow she had taken the iPad from the kid and taken it into her house, which you can't do. That's not okay. And then the kid went over and told his mother, I don't know what he told his mother, something about the iPad. I think he might have said that she hit him. I don't think she hit him. That's not what I've heard, but I've heard a couple different stories about what the kid told the mother. But for whatever reason, the mother comes over. And so Susan, and backing up a little bit, Susan and the mother had quite a lot of altercations because the kids were telling their mother this or telling their mother that. And some of it was probably true. And we know kids, some of it probably wasn't true. But the mother was a little bit of a hothead. I don't remember her name, but anyway, so she had taken the iPad from the kid, and the kid went and told his mother, and the mother came over to her door and was like banging, kind of angrily on her door. Now, I don't think the mother was in any way knocking the door down or trying to break in, which is what Susan said later. And I don't think that that's true at all. Witnesses said that she was angrily knocking on the door. So probably loudly knocking. And I think she was yelling, come out or something like that. Answer your door. But I let me just point out that regardless of what happened in the past between these parties, I don't think that the mother on that day did anything wrong. She wasn't trying to break in. She wasn't threatening her. She wasn't doing anything like that. So Susan goes and gets her gun and fires it through the door without being able to see what she's aiming at or anything. There could have been a kid there. But anyway, she hits the mother. The mother dies on the scene. And there actually is video footage of the cops telling the family and the kids that the mother has passed away. And that's a heart-wrenching video to watch. Anyway, the reason I'm telling you guys this story is I for the first time saw, I don't know if it was an interview or something from jail. I'm not sure where she was. I think she was in jail when she made this interview. But there's basically a comment where she says, I didn't have anything against this woman, which is totally not true. She absolutely had stuff against this woman, and this woman had things against her. There was definitely not a friendly relationship. But she basically says, and she kind of says it very flippantly, like, kind of thing. And what she says is, everybody has a bad day. We just need to get over it and move on. All this legal stuff is just ridiculous. And what blew my mind about that is, lady, we're not talking about an argument you had with somebody. You ended someone's life. You took a human life, like dead forever. I was blown away by the fact that she said, oh, well, you know what? We all have bad days. So, let's just get over it and move on. This is not you threw a cup of coffee at somebody or, you flipped somebody off. This is you literally ended a human life. This is not a bad day. It's not a mistake. And I believe that she intended to hit this woman. She says that she just shot because she was afraid the woman was going to break her door down, which I don't believe for a second. But I also believe wholeheartedly that she intended to shoot and kill this woman. There was a very angry, very complex relationship between these two filled with animosity. So, but I just was blown away when she said that, like, oh, we all have bad days. Yes, I've had bad days. And I've yelled at somebody I shouldn't have yelled at. And I may have flipped somebody off in my lifetime. And I may have stomped my foot or slammed a door. That's what I do during a bad day. But I have not killed anybody during a bad day, a quote unquote bad day. And I was just absolutely beyond words floored that her attitude is, well, everybody has a bad day. Let's just get over it and move on. What? Like, does that tell you how narcissistic? Hold on, I'm going to grab another baby. Does that tell you how narcissistic and crazy this woman is? That's her attitude. Oh, well, we all have bad days. Let's just get over it and move on. When I heard that, and it was a video, not an audio. So I actually saw her say that, and it was very flippant. It was very like, I can't believe you're making a big deal out of this. Like somebody got your order wrong at McDonald's, Like, it was just mind blowing how she said it. Like anybody's going to go, oh yeah, I didn't think about this before, but she was just having a bad day. She's right. We should just get over it and move on. Like, nobody is going to say that, That's crazy. And it just goes to show you not only how out of touch with like the seriousness of her actions, but how much she disregarded this woman's life, Like, I don't care if you like her kids or not. I have no doubt that those kids made it a point to piss this woman off because she made it incredibly clear to the kids that she found that she was annoyed by them, that she was upset by them. And so of course the kids are like, oh, we can get to her. Let's get to her, and that's what kids do. But regardless of how much the kids annoyed her, I mean, they could have like poured rotten milk on her every time she walked out her door, and it still wouldn't justify what she did. You know what I mean? Like, kids will be kids, and especially kids who don't have a great deal of supervision, who don't have a great deal of parental guidance, and who don't have a lot of limits. These kids were absolutely sort of, I don't want to say spoiled, but not held accountable by their mother regarding any behavior. Now, I'm not saying these were bad kids or anything. I'm not saying that by any means. They were normal kids. They were kids who realized that they could get under this lady's skin, and they wanted to get under her skin, and they did. So while I'm not putting any blame for what happened on the children or on the mother, I think the mother reacted like most mothers would. And I think that most kids nowadays have a lot less supervision than they should, and a lot less consequences and boundaries than they should. So they really don't, I'm dressing Aiden now. So they don't really have a lot of respect for their elders, and they don't really have a lot of respect for authority. Not that Susan was an authority figure to them, because she wasn't. But if we don't teach our children compassion and empathy for other people, then they're not going to know it. And that's kind of where I feel like the mother did fail in this case, was that you got to see how cute his feet are painted. I mean, I've had him a long time, but look at how cute these feet are. They're painted so well. So, I think that we do need to teach our children compassion for other people and understanding. But at the same time, this woman was, a nightmare. She was definitely a Karen to live next to. I mean, I can't even imagine how difficult it was for anybody to live next to this woman, not just kids. But this woman did, she did end up shooting the mother, and the mother passed away. But like I said, I was just absolutely blown away by the whole, everybody has bad. And she literally said, those were her words, like word for word. She said, everybody has bad days. I don't understand why we can't just get over it and move on. Like, I'm not paraphrasing or anything. That's what she actually said. And that just blew, when I heard that, I had to do like a double take. I was like, are you kidding me? You killed somebody. Like, this is not, I bumped your car with my car, or, I flipped you off, or, something like that. I threw a donut at you, no, you killed somebody. You ended the life of this woman and her 4 children, who were, I wouldn't say they were right there, but they were outside and they saw the whole thing happen. They were within a short distance of the property. So they saw this happen. That's going to traumatize these kids for the rest of their lives. Not to mention the fact that death is forever. It's permanent. Like, you can't take it back. So for her to just, I mean, at first, when I first saw the case, I thought, okay, maybe she's got some mental illness. Maybe she, maybe she didn't mean it, and I think she got a pretty I think she got like life. And I wasn't sure if that was the right sentence at first, because I thought, well, maybe they're extenuating circumstances. And not that I don't think you should get life for murder. I absolutely do think you should get life for murder. But I hadn't heard the whole story, and I didn't know if there was like I said, like any extenuating circumstances. Had the mother attacked her or something? But when I watched more of the case and I kind of got the gist of it, no, she deserved a long sentence, like life. And then for her to sit there and say it like that, like, it's, it doesn't, I don't, a lot of people think that it was racism. The mother of these children was black. The children were black. The woman was white. I don't necessarily think that it was a racist thing as much as I think that it was just an evil, mean neighbor thing. Like, I don't think she would have cared if those kids were white or black. She was just a bitter, angry person who really couldn't tolerate anything. Like, here's an example. At one of the times that she called the police, so remind you on this example, she's the one who called the police, right? So the police come over and they're talking to her, and the neighbor on the other side of the field, his dog is barking because the cops are standing there talking to her, right? And the dog's like, dog sees a stranger, dog's barking. This is the woman who called the authorities to her door. She says to them, can you please go somewhere else because I'm getting too much feedback from the dog barking? And the cop's like, we can't stop a dog from barking. It's a dog. And the lady's like, I know, but you standing here is causing the dog to bark. So can we wrap this up so you can go somewhere else? Like, so she clearly was a difficult person to live next to. So I'm not going to rush to judgment that I think it was a racist thing. I don't actually think it was a racist thing. I think it was just a mean, evil woman thing, because I don't think that the annoyance of the children would have mattered to her, the race of the children. I think any child that lived there that was acting like a child, running around, I mean, all of us who have kids know that they run around and they scream, and sometimes those screams are incredibly high pitched and incredibly boo, 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 to your head. So I don't necessarily agree that it was a racist thing. I think that it would have been any child that was in the area. I think that the ones that happened to live across the street from her just happened to be black, but I don't think that necessarily was the motive behind this. I think that she didn't, my thought process about the whole situation, about the shooting, is that the woman came to her door. She was angry. She was knocking on the door. And Susan thought, okay, here's an opportunity to shoot her or shoot at her. I'm not sure what she thought, but I definitely think she thought, here's an opportunity to shoot at her. Maybe she'll move away. Maybe she'll, whatever. Or maybe I'll kill her. Maybe she did think that. I don't know. But I definitely think that there was nefarious intentions in this. I was just completely blown away by her statement of, well, we all have bad days, and so you should just move on and get over it. It's like I was just stunned. So that was the first thing. And then I saw another video. I love this outfit on Aiden. Isn't he cute? Where a guy, I forget who he's talking to, Cliff somebody or other. This guy does a lot of religious videos. But somebody had asked him, why is it more probable than not that there is a God? And here's my thought about that. And some of the things he said I agree with, and some of the things he said I don't agree with. But one of the things that I believe makes it more probable than not that there's a God is that intelligence doesn't come from non-intelligence. An intelligent mind has to create an intelligent mind. Here's an example. AI is very intelligent. There's a lot of intelligence. It's artificial intelligence. That's why it's called AI. Ask a dog to build AI. They can't, because they don't have an intelligent mind. You know what I mean? Like, in order to create intelligence, you have to have intelligence. And so I believe in order to create human beings with intelligent minds and the complexity of the human mind, it had to come from someone who has intelligence. That's just my opinion. I think that without proving that there's a God, that makes it more probable than not that there is a God. So that's kind of how I feel about that. But I just thought I'd throw that in at the end. But the Susan Lorenz thing, I've been listening to her jail calls, and I can tell you that it's very eye-opening. If there are a lot of people who think she got the absolute right sentence. There are a few people, not very many, but some, who think that she didn't deserve the sentence that she got. Before you make a decision on the sentences, listen to her interview, listen to the jail calls, listen to the testimony, and definitely listen to her statement at sentencing, because it really is an eye-opener, and it shows just how little she cared about this woman, or cared if this woman got hurt. I mean, not that she cared about this woman, because obviously there are a lot of people in my life that I don't want to see harmed, that I don't care about because they're not an intimate part of my life, but who she cared. What I meant when I said that was how little she cared if anything happened to this person. She was very indifferent. Now, I don't know on that particular day if her goal was to kill this woman, or if her goal was just to be reckless and not care what happened to this woman. I don't know, but I do know that her actions were incredibly reckless, and that anybody who has a normal functioning brain would have expected danger, extreme danger, to befall this woman based on her actions. You don't shoot a gun through a locked door. She was locked in her house. There was nobody in there with her. The windows were locked. The door was locked. And by the way, here's another little tidbit for you. She had already called the police before she shot. So the police were on their way. So the chances that the woman would have had time to break the door down, and this wasn't like a glass door, or it was a metal door. So the chances that she would have had to break the door down and get in and do harm to Susan before the cops showed up, because they were already on their way, very, very slim to none. I would say that she absolutely had no chance to do any harm to Susan. Now, I don't think that it was the mother's intention to do harm to Susan. I think she was ticked off and she wanted her kid's iPad back. And I think that she had a few choice words for her, but I don't think it was ever her intention to do any harm to Susan. But because the cops were already on the way, she had no reason to fear for her safety. She said she was afraid. The woman was not armed. Susan was locked in her house. Her windows were locked. Her doors were locked. She was completely safe and had no reason to shoot through the door. So I just thought I'd bring that up. If you haven't seen that case, I highly recommend it. And watch the video from, what is it? Reporting Live from My Sofa, I think it's called, is the channel. And the video where it says Susan Lorenz jail calls, in the very beginning of that video, like the first couple seconds, is when they show this clip of Susan making that comment. So if you want to see something like totally flabbergasting, check out that video, and you'll see where she says it on video. It's just crazy that she thinks that way. I'm just loving Aiden right now. I still keep thinking I should turn him back to Heidi, but I don't know. He's such a cute little boy, too. I need to get someone to make me one like him, like to match him, but with a little bit longer hair, so I can have Heidi and Aiden. But we'll see. Huh? Little man. Anyway, guys, I love you lots, and I will talk to you later. Okay? Bye.